Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focused Radio. This is your host, Martin Friedman, and this one that I'm introducing today, this particular podcast, it's a video podcast. It'll be an audio podcast. This one is extra special for me. We have a guest host. That guest host is my wife, Felicia Savage Friedman. And I'm not going to tell you a whole lot because I just want you to experience it. But I just want to say that this, this brings in a very strong woman's voice into our conversation about being a man and masculinity and what it means to be a new man and how, we're moving from ego to soul, which means we're moving from these old ways of understanding what it means to be a man to new possibilities and new ways. And the podcast that you're going to listen to now and watch is Felicia taking us to a level of depth around vulnerability and truth that I just really want you to experience. So as always, we are so thankful and excited to have you on this journey. This journey has been incredible, especially this series on a new man. For me, it's very personal. This is my family. Dustin and Mahdi are my brothers, and Felicia is my wife. And so welcome to our family discussion on what it means to be a new man. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focused Radio. We have a very special episode and a very special guest host, Felicia Savage Friedman. I'm going to turn it over to you. Go, Felicia.
Thank you, Martin Lee Friedman. I'm honored. I am so honored to be on the Soul Focus Group podcast. As most of you know, I don't do a lot of podcasts. Even though Yoga Roots on Location, we have our own podcast. I haven't even listened to mine. After I've recorded them. So in full disclosure, however, I have listened to several of you all's, which is quite exceptional. And I'm honored to be here. And in my preparation to interview you all, I got this overwhelming feeling of awe. And I can't hold you all. I am honored because I've seen you all over the years. And the work that I see most importantly with you all is you reclaiming your humanity through your commitment to grow. Mm. And for me, when I think on you all, that's what I think about. I see the potential of humanity, of what we all can do. You all are awesome examples. And so really that's what I wanted to share with the podcast community, is to share you and your trajectory of growth and what you may see that you still need to, those areas that you still need to grow in. I'm honored to be here with you. I'm humbled because I've seen the magic that you all can create in a room. I was introduced to Dustin in St. Louis, and I go back to that, that moment in time that was so transformative for me. It really changed my curriculum, to integrate an anti-racist framework with my humanity framework. And, I'll never forget that. So I'm forever, eternally indebted to you, Dee. You will be my brother forever. And I appreciate you. And Mahdi, the work that you have done, with Dustin and with Martin and with yourself and you self-disclosing, it's fire, it's just fire. It really is. Felicia. It's so encouraging, as all three of you as cisgendered men, the work that you all have committed to do on yourself is extraordinary. And you're just such a good example. And so that's something that, I really wanted to make sure that we brought out in this session of the podcast. And of course, you know, Martin, that's my dude, you know, first white guy I dated, last white guy I'll ever marry or date. You know.
I hope so.
Well, I guess once you go white, you don't go back.
It doesn't quite have the same rhyme, but you know.
Or
you gotta squeeze it in. It's gotta squeeze it in a little bit.
You know, and so with Martin, you know, us starting our relationship grounded in humanity is where it's at, you know, and this is something that, you know, we want to share with everyone who wants to listen. So, you know, I needed to get that out. And in full disclosure, you know, that I do have, you know, high esteem for all of you, each of you. And together with the Soul Focus group, the work that you all are doing, you know, I get to hear bits and pieces of you all's trainings, and it's just magnificent. And I will, you know, I'll forever support you, because you all are about grounding in unconditional love and humanity. And yes, true, we have these, you know, these, this clothing that we wear, you know, this outer, the way that we present to the world. But I see you, and I need you all to each know that I see you, and I love you. I love you dearly. And I love you through even the difficult conversations that we've had through the years, and, you know, and holding space for each other and what that has meant. You know, what comes to mind is that you all have grounded yourself in struggling together, and you've gone beyond the struggle together, because it's in love, you know. So when you struggle in love, it's quite different. And, you know, I'll ask you all to articulate that soon. But I wanted to start off with, because I know yoga, you know, the folks in the Yoga Roots on Location community, we're going to use this as one of our training videos. So just so you all know. Yes, we never miss an opportunity. You know, and Dustin, your interview one-on-one is coming up. So just so you know, I got to put you on note.
Sweet.
Yes. So I wanted to start with you all just sharing who you are, not what you do. So it's going to be, I'm asking a different question, like, who are you? You know, not what you do in the world, not how other people see you, but who are you? How about D, you start. Who are you?
Well, first, Felicia, thank you for that warm introduction. And I'm honored to be here with all three of you. You know, one of the things I was telling Martin after we were just down in Houston for Brother Mahdi's, the funeral of Brother Mahdi's mother, you know, I was sharing with Martin, when I'm with you three, I feel safer than I ever feel. The only other time is when I'm with my children. I mean, I feel really seen, protected, loved, nurtured, no judgment. I mean, just you three make me feel warm, and, you know, everything that family should be, I feel with you all implicitly. So I just want to say that to all three of you. And that feeling is so precious and means so much to me, over and above all we do out in the world externally. What we have amongst each other is just beautiful for me. And I just want all three of you to know that, even in the midst of a time that was really sad, you know, just, you know, being in Mahdi's energy, Felicia being in your energy, Martin being in your energy, is just a gift that there's no price for. In terms of answering your question, who am I? You know, waking up at 5 this morning with my two little ones, first and foremost, I'm a father, and which is, you know, the greatest joy of my life. I mean, I have three precious boys. I'm also a grandfather. I have a grandson right now, and just being able to be in their lives and just feeling eternally blessed from all the love and just joy that I get to share with those little ones, and, you know, seeing them as my teachers. So I'm also very much a student of myself, a student learning from my children, learning from each of you, learning from life, learning from our work. And also, you know, I've been thinking a lot about purpose, and getting really clear on my purpose is to reflect God's love and God's power, the power of the divinity, and letting that shine through me, and wanting that to be my legacy. You know, when my time ends on this planet, I want folks that come into contact with me to have said they felt God's love and God's power.
Thank you, Dustin. Thank you.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, Dustin.
Yes, Mahdi.
Yes, I want to say, you know, as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the conversation, and just when you came on, Felicia, I'm having a hard time not smiling, right? So every time I see you, I smile, right? It just keeps generating a smile from my face, right? I want to start off by just thanking you all for supporting me during my time of bereavement with the passing of my mother. And it was so much to me to have you all come out from where you come from, to be able to be me and my family during that time. It meant a lot to me, and I really want y'all to know how much I appreciate it. When people normally would ask me, who am I would, think I was, I'm just a deep person. So I start thinking deep thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I really considered, with the passing of my mother, that, I'm the son of Iona Mayroy, right? Mm. And Marsha Ray Davenport, who are both passed on. They're both part of our ancestry now. So I'm their offspring. I think I represent the best of them. I've been trying to represent the best in them. I see myself as a father, because that's like the next and most important role in my life. I want to be, and I strive to be, a good father to my 3 daughters. It means a lot to me to be that. I'm learning how to be a good friend to people. And the reason why I said I'm learning how to do that is because I've walked the journey of a pioneer for a very long time. And as a pioneer, someone who goes out in front of people to clear a path, you often spend most of your time by yourself. And, you struggle sometimes to let people in, And so, the last few years of my life has been about letting people in, letting the people who love me in. And not just being the one who does all the giving, but really making myself available to receive. Because for years, I would not allow myself to receive. People wanted to give. No, I'm good. I would do all the giving. All the giving was coming from me. And what I realized is how off balance my life had become. Because if you don't receive, then you can't be beholding to people. In order to have a real relationship, you have to be beholding to people. You have to feel like you have an obligation to people. That's a natural thing. If you have relationships and you don't feel an obligation to people, then you don't really have a real relationship. You have a transactional thing going on. But just to feel an obligation to show up as a healthy human being, as someone who cares and loves not just the person, but the person's family, and the connection of, the relationships that come together to make us who we are. So I would like to think of myself as a phenomenon unfolding in real time.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all for this. This is beautiful. Like I said, I just, every time I see you, Felicia, I can't help but smile.
Thank you, Mahdi.
I'm exercising more facial muscles than I think I ever have on the podcast.
Yeah, that's real, because it does.
Yes,
Smiling exercises all those muscles. Yeah, it's so true. Thank you, Mahdi.
You're welcome.
Yes, more.
Teddy Bear, what's happening, Teddy Bear?
It's all family. It's all familiar now.
Hey.
So I was sitting here thinking, the phrase came to me when you first asked that question. I'm like, good, Dustin didn't say it. Good, Mahdi didn't say it. And then at the very end of what you just said, Mahdi, you said what I was about to say, but way more eloquently, right? Because, and I'm like, damn. Because what came to mind, the very first thing, just where I am right now, what I've been thinking about the last couple of days, is I'm a work in progress. Those are the first words that came to me. I like phenomena unfolding, like way better, like way more eloquent. But I'm gonna go with work in progress, because that's what came to me. And what I mean by that is, I'm still progressing towards my purpose here. And so the who I am, for me, is I am a human being that is still connecting to, to my purpose, to my real purpose of being here. And when I say a work in progress, I feel like I'm cleaning away, self-imposed obstacles that are keeping me from being fully in my purpose. And my purpose is definitely to serve. And my purpose is to serve from a loving place, not from a deferential place. And so similar to what Dustin said, I feel like I'm bursting with love, and I've been keeping myself from being that completely loving being and loving everyone and everything, because I still haven't done all the cleaning I need to do. So that's my answer for you right now. I'm a lot of other things too. I'm a husband and a father to your 2 children, and a father and grandfather to my family that still lives in Seattle, and a godfather to Dustin's children, all 3 of his boys. I also like to think of myself as somebody that, the who is somebody that can really be counted on, regardless of the situation. That I kind of have always been that go-to guy. And I think that in the past, it was sort of like an enabling go-to guy, like at the detriment of myself. But now I want to be that go-to guy to be loving and helpful and caring and of service from a place of like that, the concept I'm coming to understand of that sort of everlasting light, that everlasting love, not that kind that we're told has a time limit on it. So that's really what I'm feeling right now to answer the who question. And Felicia, I would love for you to answer that too, because our listeners have heard a couple stories with you in them that I've told, but they've never met you. So maybe a little who, right, and even a little what, if you want, just so everybody gets to know who you are.
Right. Well, thank you, Martin, for sharing, and thank you for that entree to share who I am. I'm Felicia Savage Friedman. I'm a Black cisgender woman in this incarnation. And I say this incarnation because I remember other incarnations. It's just my belief that, I have had so many deja vu moments and times that, I know it's not of this life, but I am remembering other lives. So depends on moment to moment, really who I am. Is really flexible. And that's real. In this incarnation, yes, I am a yoga instructor and teacher and trainer. I have a school, Yoga Roots on Location, where I certify yogis at the 200-hour level. And we also conduct professional development grounded in unconditional love. To be able to do this level, intimate and vulnerable level of self-inquiry into how oppression has affected us, as well as how we are oppressive. And I say that I'm the curator of vulnerable spaces. I am the daughter of Richard and Shirley Lane, my grandma Punchy, and my grandpa, Ellie. And I come from a lineage of women who expand on the truth as a practice, and we are embellishers. And, I'm in recovery for that. It's just, that's part of who I am. I am Maya and Cleveland Savage's mom. Cleveland is the oldest, Maya is the baby, but she came to teach us all. She's an old soul. Cleveland is my buddy who we get to do. He gives me my political understandings of the world. Like, why does this not make sense? So I, like Dustin and Mahdi, I do believe said, I am a teacher and a student. I'm learning. I love to learn. I love math. Algebra is my thing. So I solve problems, linear equations, just for fun. And let's see, I think that's it. That's it. Because I can go on and on. Thank you, Martin, for that. At this point, I really want, because Dustin brought up in terms of the end of life. And so usually the way I start my yoga teacher trainings is I ask folks to write their epitaph and their obituary. So that's the way we begin our yoga teacher training. Because I really, wanted to begin with the ending. When it comes to the end of our life, and Mahdi, holding you, and when I've gone over this a lot in my mind, like, are you going to do this? Given that, Mahdi's mom has just transitioned. And I said, yeah, because, even at the funeral, which was beautiful to experience, that's the first funeral I've been in during this pandemic time. And I had a lot of feelings around it, because as you all know, my youngest brother passed unexpectedly and,
right,
in July 2020, and I'm still working through grief of that. So I appreciate you all's relationship, because it doesn't replace that, but it fills a void that was there even before way past in terms of my brotherly relationships. So I really appreciate you all, for that. But I wanted to ask you all, just to pause for a moment. And even though it may not be your spiritual or religious practice to write an epitaph or even to write your obituary, because I know, with Martin, I'm learning. I'm probably practicing Judaism more than Christianity, than I ever practiced Christianity. But it's, I want you to just reflect on that. What would your epitaph? And the epitaph is that inscription that's on a tombstone. What would yours say and why? What would yours say and why? And so I know, Dustin, you've already been thinking on it. So I'm gonna go to you last, and so Martin, I want you to start my D and then Dustin.
I was trying to get really deep and everything, because I've done this before and I have an answer and I'm like, do I want to give that answer or do I want to get super deep? But I think this really sums me up. What I want my epitaph to say is pretty fly for a white guy. I mean, like, this is it. I came here and just decided to experience this world as a white dude. And with all that comes with, especially given this time that we're in, and like all I've tried to do most of my life is just be pretty fly for a white guy.
Thank you, Martin.
Because I just was gonna say, I don't know if you all know this or not, but white guys can be kind of rough sometimes. It can be kind of rough dealing with white men. I don't know if you all, had any personal experiences in those ways, but I just, for me, somebody said to me once, they said, it was a younger Black woman I used to do a lot of work with. And she said, I hate having to deal with these white men, and like, she's I'm glad when I can go a day without them, without having to deal with them. And I said, well, imagine being me. I got to look at one in the mirror every single day, So part of my epitaph of being pretty fly for a white guy is just learning to love myself through all of the nonsense and the mess that I was acculturated in. So really learning to love myself is maybe on a more serious note, that's what it could say. He learned to love himself before he passed.
Oh, thank you, Martin. Yes. Thank you.
That's beautiful. When I, listening to just the process that you're going through in your mind, that brought you back to the last thing that you said, right? And as I think about myself and think about my journey, and what I would like to have left as a message with me passing on for the people who are still here. Because I always say, funerals are not for the dead, they're for the living. to inspire us to live better than we were living before that person passed.
Mm.
And we always can find ourselves seeking to evolve more. We're growing, always growing and always growing, right? So for me, I would think it would be, he wanted us to grow. He wanted us to grow. So every time someone comes to my gravesite, that would be, I could still be teaching while I'm gone. He wanted us to grow. My kids would never be able to come visit me without being reminded that he wanted us to grow. You know, so that's what I felt from, you know, and then being inspired by what Martin, the process he went through in his mind. But I really feel good about that, that I could rest with that as my message. He wanted us to grow.
Thank you, Mahdi.
Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
You know, what I would say would be very similar to both Martin and Mahdi's message. You know, I would first want he walked the path of growth. And I would want people to be able to look at the trajectory and journey of my life and be able to see what I've overcome. You know, and I, having gone through 12-step recovery, I think a lot about, as we engage after recovery, as we engage with other people who are embarking on the recovery journey themselves, part of our work is to be there as an example, right? So as we tell our stories, it's both to inspire and show other people that there is a pathway forward to a very healthy, holistic way of life. And so when I think about, he walked the pathway of growth, overcome so much stuff. I was listening to a podcast by a woman, Christina Lopez, last night. She was talking about shadow work. And she was talking about as children, and I see this so much in my children right now. And as children, especially as men, most of us, Mahdi, Martin, we were very sensitive little children. And we got a message very quickly, that you're not supposed to cry. You're not, because of all these macho, toxic, masculine messages we received, that, you're not supposed to cry. As a matter of fact, I was told, let me give you a reason to cry, And so as you repress that, that's when the formation of your shadow happens. And so much of my life has been getting back to the beauty that I held as a child. And when I look at Elijah, like I was telling Mahdi and Martin this, Elijah's my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old has restless leg syndrome. And one morning he was having a rough morning. And I was listening to Elijah say to him, "It's okay, Nico, I'll protect you. I got you. You're safe and secure." And to see a 2-year-old and hold his brother and rub his hair, that's something, And so my journey of overcoming, things I experienced as a child, alcoholism, so much. I want that to show as an example. And also, Felicia, as you talked about incarnating, that, I chose this path before I came into this body this time as a way for my soul to evolve. And so being able to, as I show that pathway to growth, that every experience is a divine lesson, right? We're kind of conditioned to look at things as punishments, but everything we go through is a divine lesson that's tailor-made for our growth. The universe only gives us gifts. And the other thing I would want to say is that on my tombstone is that he loved passionately. And the thing that I've always known about myself is I love people. I love to engage with people. I love to ask questions. I want to know people. And I want to connect with people at the deepest level. And, again, messages growing up, taught me to hide that part of myself. But for the rest of my life, I want that to be bursting out of me, that I can give love and bring love to every space that I'm in. And it doesn't even have to be the words I say, but it's the vibration and frequency I bring into a room that it emanates love. And so that's what I would want to be said about it.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Really beautiful.
This is a wrap. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, this is filling me up. It really is. This is soul food. This really is soul food. To hear you all's words and your passion and your commitment, like that's what, is just so extraordinary, and you all are such good examples. So thank you. Thank you for rolling with me on the epitaph piece. Dustin had already preempted the shadow work conversation. And that shadow, and you stated it so eloquently. And so I wanted to ask you all, in looking at the shadow sides of ourselves, how do you reconcile being remorseful, or regretful about how we lived in the past and how you're choosing to live now? Like, how do you reconcile that? And for me, I'll self-disclose, as a parent, I was like on point. I was at-home parent, homeschooled my kids, nursing 6 years, cotton diapers, organic food, starting over 35 years ago. But I missed. There was a time in my life that I was really focused on my yoga studies, so much so that I didn't realize that I was starving my baby, Maya, in trying to be so perfect. So I'm really keen on that perfection piece. I know what that looks like. I know that it could literally take one's life in trying to practice being perfect. So that's something that I look back at, and it always will keep me in that moderation practice. So I'm not going to go one side or the other, but stay more in that middle road. But I was wondering, what has happened in your life that you have had some regret or remorse about, and how are you reconciling that now with your, have gone through an awakening, your enlightenment, enlightened kind of space that you all are all in? How do you reconcile the past with the present?
I think that's a hell of a question. Good question.
Thank you.
And as I think about it, I have very little regret. And the reason why I have very little regret is because I've always looked at my life as a growing journey. Ever since I was 5 years old, I started applying all of the struggles that I was going through in life at 5 to the idea of me growing and it being a part of my purpose in life. So everything I went through, even the things that were heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and I didn't have a childhood at all. I would say I was a child for maybe 15 minutes and had to start taking on adult responsibilities. And so to survive, and I really put that in quotes, to survive, I had to pretend to be an adult just because I took on adult experiences. I mean, the role of an adult, I wasn't, of course, nowhere near to being an adult. So there was a lot of development issues that happened because I missed out on playing a lot of the play that helps to develop so much of your emotional side, so much of your, the nuance of your ability to express who you are as a divine being. So because I pretended a lot to be an adult, to have to take care of my brothers, I think the one thing I regret is the fact that I didn't develop a repertoire of being able to express myself at a very high level emotionally, because I was, had to be hard and tough, and it has a way of, especially, cisgendered men, it has a way of, with the programming, to make you stiff, sort of, and stiff emotionally. I remember my mama telling me a couple of times, she said, boy, I've never met any man harder than you.
Your mom said that to you?
Yeah, my mama said that. She said, I've never met a man as hard as you. Because one day she had her and my stepdad, who she was married to before they divorced, were having domestic issues. She called me from Houston and she says, I need you to come out here. you know, because me and your stepdad are getting into it, you know. And I said to her, I said, Ma, I love you to death, but I'm not coming out there. And she says, you're not gonna come? I said, no. I said, because here's what I know about human beings in relationships. I'm gonna come out there and I'm gonna get into it with my stepdad. I'm gonna go to jail. Y'all gonna be back together tomorrow. And I said, then y'all gonna be trying to raise money to get me out of jail. And then my record gonna be messed up. I said, so I love you, but I'm not coming. And lo and behold, the next day they were back together. Everything was fine. See, I would have been in jail, right? But I've been that kind of person where because I didn't have a childhood to be sort of strong, but at the same time cold. And that's had some residual side effects of wanting to be open at times in my life when I haven't been able to be open. So if there's a regret, it's that.
You know, I would say, thinking about this question, and you know, thank you, Mahdi, for everything you just shared there. You know, I think I'm still working to not have regrets. I can't say I don't have regrets. I would say that my regrets are not the place I'm at a lot. And when I think about the harm that I've caused other people, I see most of it, not all of it, but most of it was rooted in the harm that I was causing myself. One example of that would be, I think the way I harmed my family the most, my birth family, was when I was 15 and I had a profound attempt to take my own life, like, you know, to the point of being in a coma for, 18 hours and, having to have CPR in the ambulance. And I mean, like, I tried really hard to kill myself. I took a lot of very high powered prescription drugs, and my heart stopped beating and I went into a coma. And recently, because I'm in recovery as well, recently I made amends to my family, and most of my amends was centered around that. And I was with my mother, my dad is no longer with us, my brother and my sister, and they kind of went around and just said what their experience was like the night that I tried to take my own life. And it was amazing because I'd always seen it as an act of like self-hate and damage to myself. But I was like overwhelmed with emotion at how angry and violent of an act that was to my family. And I think I've been okay with myself a lot of my life because I've said, well, I haven't done a lot of terrible things to people. I've never beat people up. I've never done these like fucked up things to people. But the truth is, I have harmed the people in my life because I wasn't right with myself and because I was damaging myself. And my family, before getting with your family, Felicia, I harmed that family because I was not emotionally available to them. I was steeped in my addictions, around overeating, gambling, pornography, and I was not available to them emotionally. And they knew I loved them, and sometimes I was, but on the deeper level, and I was there like I did the opposite of what you said, Mahdi. I tried everything I could to get in the middle of every situation to save people. I was Captain Save Everybody, and I actually really looking back on it, I harmed people coming from that place. And I think there's a theme developing in this conversation for me, which is I think the way I reconcile it now, to go back to your question, my reconciliation is reconciling with myself, is really getting to a place of loving myself. I had a therapist once that said, you are the person I've met that hates themselves more than anybody else. She said, your life is run by self-hate. And it's why you go to extremes on addiction and quitting. It's why you aren't emotionally available to the people in your life. She said, I've never seen anybody with as much self-hate as you have. And for me, I'm like, I have like this martyr complex. Well, see, I'm just harming myself. I'm not harming anybody else. But what I'm reconciling now is that I've harmed people by my self-hate, and that my reconciliation is to reconcile with myself and really be in a loving place with myself so I can bring that love out. I feel like I'm repeating myself in the previous questions, but that's just what's really strong on my heart right now.
Thank you for sharing that, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
You know, what I would add to this conversation, it would be not until really recently that I crossed over that threshold from having tons of regrets and living in so much fear around being judged for those things I was regretting, to moving towards having no regrets. And one of the keys for me, the couple keys, the first key was moving forward in my life without judgment. And you know, my groundwater was polluted with a lot of judgment, right? And especially a lot of harsh judgment of self. And, you know, part of the recovery process for me was learning to begin to forgive myself, which was such an alien concept for me. I remember, probably 10 years ago, Martin and I, maybe even 12 years ago, Martin and I were having a lot of conversations based on someone he was listening to. I think it was Jack Cornfield, around self-forgiveness. And that was only resonating with me on this conscious level, because I couldn't forgive other people, nor could I forgive myself. And my way of dealing with the things that I couldn't forgive within myself was to completely numb myself out with drugs and alcohol, gambling, sex, those type of things. When I say numb myself out, literally drinking myself to sleep at night, to the point where I got pancreatitis twice, almost died the second time, and just really tore my life down, because I was living from unaddressed pain, and I was acting that pain out towards others and towards myself. And along the recovery journey, I was able to, so as I went through therapy, when I first got into therapy, I had blocked out everything that I experienced as a child. Like I literally, that was not in my consciousness. So that stuff started to come flooding back for me through therapy. Then I got into this place of extreme anger at my family and a lot of judgment, But as I, really embarked on a true recovery process for myself, and I started to look at my family, the things I would judge them for, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Those things are in me, and I'm doing those same exact things that I have so much harsh judgment for. And so for me, so much of it was about being able to forgive myself, because the truth is, and I think I know this is true for all of us, given the groundwater that we received as children, like what Mahdi just talked about, in terms of struggling with emotion and maybe showing up cold. Well, given what was downloaded into our groundwater, into our subconscious programming, unless there's a break in that, there's no way that you couldn't show up the way Mahdi talked about, the way I was showing up, the way Felicia, you or Martin. There's no way we could. There had to be a break in that. And my break was a spiritual surrender after my second bout of pancreatitis. And so 12-step recovery, doing spiritual coaching with Mahdi, spirit, it's almost like, I'll say Mahdi's my spiritual teacher and coach, but he's my brother, my beloved, So it was much deeper than just teacher, and coaching doesn't describe the relationship we had. And, as well as the same connection with Martin, as well as my brother. And, for me, the golden key was a process of doing amends to people. But I first had to start with doing amends to myself. And the amends process is not an easy thing to do, to be able to sit with someone and be forthright, vulnerable, and honest about the harm that you caused, and to seek forgiveness, but not just to seek forgiveness, but to seek ways in terms of repairing the harm that was done. And then moving forward and causing harm no more. In Buddhism, it would be said, no harm, right? That's one of the major tenets, right? Cause no harm. And so for me, so much of the reconciliation was about forgiveness, moving away from judgment of self and others, compassion for self, making those amends, and then living in alignment with what's authentic and true for me. And so for me, all that is what has helped me along the journey to move from having regrets. And also, again, as I said earlier, all those experiences that I went through that even caused harm to other people and to myself, those are now, I'm able to transmute those now to use those as valuable lessons as I engage with other people, and be able to share those vulnerably, not out of fear. I have no fear to share anything that I've been through with anyone, but being able to use those to help bring more life through the work that we do and the engagements I have, whether it's coaching basketball, parenting, the work that we do is so focused.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin.
This is beautiful. Wow. So
This is definitely what we want to get out into the world.
Yes.
The way you pronounced it, Felicia, the idea of humanity, growing our humanity, reclaiming our humanity. You know, having experienced all the trauma that we've all experienced. And in the face of all that trauma, in the face of all that pain and suffering, to realize that we can still recover our humanity and therefore recover our love, recover our compassion, recover our genuine desire for people to be their best and have their best. I want everybody to have it good, you know. And what I discovered was that there were times in my life where I thought I knew who didn't deserve to have it good. And I thought I knew why they didn't deserve to have it good. And I realized that as long as there was somebody I could point to that I thought didn't deserve to have it good, I was interfering with my own self being able to have it good. So, you know, we want to get this out there, this idea, this spirit, that every human being deserves to have it good. And imagine if every human being believed that and worked toward that, what we can do in the world, you know? Yeah.
Yes. It's the beauty of this understanding.
Yes.
This is accessible for everyone. You know, I think I started out saying that you all are exceptional, and you are, and I believe that, but you're not exceptional that's unapproachable for anyone else. We're all exceptional if we choose to be, and it's about free will and choices, you know. It's beautiful. This is life-giving. Really is. It's life-giving.
See what I mean? I told you this conversation has been amazing. It's been intense, and trust me, it is just getting started. It is just getting started. Part 2, just wait. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I just want to thank you all so much for being on this journey with us. Know that we love you and care about you. We are so excited to have you here with us, doing the work with us, joining the practice with us, practicing moving from ego to soul, from old ways of knowing and being into new possibilities, from constricted ways of being into possibilities that are love-based and compassionate and caring. And we're just so happy to have you on this journey with us. Check out everything that we do, as always. Look at, if you're on our YouTube channel right now, look at other things on our YouTube channel. Check out our old podcast, please. And go to soulfocusedgroup.com and see what we have going on at soulfocusedgroup.com. You're going to be hearing about new opportunities in the next month or so. You'll be hearing about them on our podcast. You'll be hearing about them and seeing them on our website. So that's it for today. We thank you. We ask you to stay safe, stay well, and most of all, stay soul focused.